Hello and welcome to Football Friday, where I talk about what has happened over the course of this week about the beautiful game. Let's get it started with Monday. Now, Monday was a pretty quiet day for football. Of course, you did have games like Athletic Club versus Espanyol, but that was really the only game that went on Monday, and Athletic Club won 2-1. Athletic Club in this game were a prime example of a team that maybe didn't control all of the possession, but were a team that could finish their chances. They had significantly less possession of the ball, but in turn, the only stat that really mattered in that game was the goals, which, of course, as we know, Athletic Club scored one more than Espanyol. Now let's move on to Tuesday. Now, Tuesday had much more to offer in, well, football content, from Newcastle thrashing Everton 3-1 to West Ham pulling a win over Watford. And the most exciting of them all would be Burnley drawing 1-1 to Man United. Now, I'll start Tuesday off by talking about Newcastle 3, Everton 1. Now, this was a game where I generally did think Everton could win. It started off well with Everton controlling most of the ball and playing good passes in behind Newcastle, and eventually it did lead to a Lascelles' own goal. But sadly for Frank Lampard and Everton fans, as soon as that Lascelles' own goal happened, a minute later, Mason Holgate scored an own goal to level the scorings to 1-1. Now, if I was Frank Lampard in this situation, I would be encouraging the Everton players to go and score again. They had already made some very good chances in the first half. They very well could have done that in the second. But as soon as the 56th minute happened, Ryan Fraser would score a goal, which I guess sort of encouraged Newcastle to just keep on putting the pressure on. And in the 80th minute, Newcastle would be rewarded for their pressures and they would get a goal through Kieran Trippier from I'll give it, a very, very good free kick. Moving on from the Newcastle game, let's talk about West Ham 1, Watford 0. Now, I think everyone knew that West Ham were going to beat Watford, but I had hope for Watford. Now, the reason I had hope for Watford in this game was the appointment of Roy Hodgson, who at Palace was a stay up specialist. He didn't care if you lost 10 games in a row, as long as you stay up, that is okay. And I thought maybe Watford can at least get a point out of this game. But thanks to Jared Bowen, the Watford fans' dreams of beating West Ham were crushed. Now, moving on to the last game on Tuesday in the Premier League, being Burnley 1, Man United 1. Now, on face value, you expected Man United to crush Burnley, but similar to games like Middlesbrough, they just weren't able to, well, score more than one. And quite frankly, you could blame VAR for the loss, as Varane's goal was ruled offside, and if I'm pretty sure, there was an own goal by captain Ben Mee, which was also ruled, well, not as an offside, but this time a foul. And for Man United, it's just more points that have been lost to clubs that are way lower than in the league. Aston Villa, Newcastle, and now Burnley are all teams that have taken points from Manchester United. Now, let's move on to the most jam packed day, Wednesday. I call this the most jam packed day for the amount of strange things that happened on this day. Southampton's comeback against Spurs, Aston Villa and Leeds going to a 3-3 draw, and Norwich and Crystal Palace drawing. That one isn't too exciting, to be honest. I'll get the most boring fixture out of the way, Norwich versus Crystal Palace. Now, you could say that it wasn't that boring. Of course, the Zaha penalty miss was probably the highlight of this, but we've got to give credit to Zaha for scoring an absolute screamer. But it looked like Norwich could have beaten Crystal Palace, considering Timo Pukki scored in the first minute of the game. This, combined with a very solid back line, including youngsters Aarons and Brandon Williams, they really seemed like they could have got a win out of that game. Sadly, it did come to an end, and I guess Dean Smith's happy that it wasn't 2-1. Okay, I did miss a game out being Man City Brentford, but to be honest, I don't really need to talk about it. One, it was less exciting than the Crystal Palace Norwich game, and it really has to be that dull to beat that. And everyone knew that Man City were going to win. They're going to win the league this season. They've got a pretty good chance of winning the Champions League this season if they don't bottle it like they did last year. But it really wasn't that much of an exciting game to. Finally, I can move on to the more exciting games of the day. Let's start with Tottenham 2, Southampton 3. Now, I actually did sit down and watch this game, so I can go into more detail about how Spurs did bottle this. And it came down to one important factor: the defense. Christian Romero was actually a solid defender through the entirety of the game, but Davinson Sanchez and Ben Davies just aren't of the quality that Spurs need at the moment. They really weren't great. I could have stuck a paper towel onto the pitch and it probably would have done a better job at defending than Sanchez and Davies. In the end, though, it was all up to Southampton to capitalise on the poor defending. Their attack was probably one of the best I'd seen in a while from them. Che Adams, even James Ward Prowse had a very, very good game in this game. And to be honest, they could have won 6. Hugo Lloris and Romero kept Spurs in this game way longer than they should have been, to be honest. And to finish up on all of the games on Wednesday, we've got Aston Villa versus Leeds in a game which I didn't think Leeds could pull a point back from. I say this because Coutinho scoring in the 30th minute and Jacob Ramsey scoring 2 more really should have put Leeds to bed. But Leeds fought back, and in the end, Dan James and Llorente managed to squeeze a point for Leeds. Now, at the time of recording this, 2 more Premier League games have gone on: Liverpool Leicester and Wolves Arsenal. Now, the reason I won't be going into deep detail is mainly because I haven't seen these games. I can't put my opinion on them if I haven't seen them. I can only go off of the scores and, well, who scored them. And for Liverpool, it was a 2-0 victory over Leicester, which Diego Jota scored both of the goals. And it also was Diaz's first game at Liverpool. And from what I've seen, I guess he played okay. Not only that, we have to go to the Wolves Arsenal game, which ended in a 1-0 win for Arsenal, where I guess their back line was very good, as not only did they keep a clean sheet, Gabriel also scored. But I guess the most important thing was, well, Martinelli getting a red card, which I find pretty funny, to be honest. Thank you for listening to me ramble on about what happened this week in the beautiful game of football. I'll be here next week to talk about the next fixtures in the line for the Premier League and other leagues. Goodbye.